Exchanging blame, Moscow claims it has repelled an attempt by Kyiv to retake Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, as it goes partly offline amid shelling.
Former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev is laid to rest at a low-key funeral in Moscow.
7 men and 1 woman will go on trial on Monday for allegedly aiding the Bastille Day attacker responsible for killing 86 people in the French city of Nice in 2016.
The United Nations adopts a new resolution on access to justice for survivors of sexual violence in a move hailed as historic. Greenpeace UK places giant boulders at the bottom of the English Channel in an attempt to stop destructive industrial fishing. Europe's largest power plant has partly gone offline amid continued fighting, according to the United Nations nuclear watchdog, as Russia and Ukraine continue to exchange blame over the shelling. Despite the presence of representatives of the International Atomic Energy Agency at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the Kyiv regime once again tried to seize the plant. According to the Russians, 2 groups of motorboats, with a total of more than 250 people from the Special Operation Forces, tried to dock on the shore of the Kakhovka reservoir, which houses the nuclear power plant. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has offered Vladimir Putin mediation to help resolve the crisis, as it did for the grain agreement back in July, according to the Turkish President's office. While Russians and Ukrainians accuse each other of attacks on the nuclear power plant, fear gripped the population in the neighboring areas. Natalia Istokos, a mother of 3 who lives in a small village nearby, says that almost every day she can hear the sound of explosions, but it's not the shelling that scares them the most. As a precaution, authorities distributed iodine pills and masks to the residents. Some of the mothers now go with their children to pick up the pills at the same schools where their children used to have classes before the war.
Nobel Peace Prize winner Dmitry Muratov holds up a portrait of Mikhail Gorbachev, the presence of the Novaya Gazeta chief editor setting a decidedly anti-establishment tone for the funeral of the last president of the Soviet Union. Thousands of ordinary Russians had queued to pay their last respects to their former leader. We came to pay tribute to the real human, Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev said this morning. I'd like us to have more people like him in our history, because thanks to him we had perestroika, uskoreneye and glasnost. We need such politicians to settle the situation in the world when it's on the verge of the Third World War. Vladimir Putin had said he was too busy to attend, and Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban was the only foreign leader to make the trip, with other Western nations sending their ambassadors. Present too was Suzanne Massie, US President Ronald Reagan's advisor on relations with the Soviet Union. But it was a decidedly low-key farewell to one of the most influential leaders of recent times.
Six years after the 2016 Bastille Day truck attack in Nice, friends and families of the victims are awaiting the opening of Monday's trial in Paris. 8 people will stand accused for allegedly helping a 31-year-old Tunisian man who ploughed a 19-ton truck through a crowd gathered to watch the fireworks. 86 people were killed. This man lost his wife and the mother of his 2 young boys. We want, like everyone else, the truth and to know exactly what each person's point of view is, what their responsibilities are. While his son says, I would like to know why he did it and that's all. Jean-Claude Hubler, who was there on July 14th, chairs the Life for Nice Victims Association. Despite the heavy loss of life, he claims the tragedy wasn't remembered in the same way as the November 13 attacks. The attack in Nice has already nearly been forgotten, he says. But people are going to talk about it now because the trial is going to start. But I've said that many people during the presidential election and on many TV shows where politicians were invited to talk about the terrorist attacks, they systematically forgot to mention the attack in Nice. Days after the incident, the Islamic State claimed responsibility, but officials say they have yet to prove that the jihadists were directly involved. Police say the attacker was inspired by the extremist group's propaganda.
A historic moment at the United Nations after its General Assembly adopted a resolution granting access to justice for survivors of sexual violence, a vote which was welcomed by cries of joy and applause.
It is so decided.
It's the first time the UN passed a standalone resolution that recognizes rape in peacetime, according to the founder of RISE, an NGO that has been fighting for years to make the voices of survivors of sexual assault heard around the world.
What we're asking people is not only to understand that the stigma of rape is something that should be abolished, but also to look themselves in the mirror and ask, what have you done about it?
To highlight victim blaming, RISE partnered with the UN Spotlight Initiative to stage an exhibition at the UN headquarters in New York, stressing that what a victim is wearing should have no bearing in the investigation of rape. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan threatened to come down suddenly one night against Greece. Turkey has accused Greece of using missile systems for harassment against its jets. Ankara is submitting complaints with NATO. Athens has accused Turkey of violating its airspace. In July, the Turkish president said he didn't have any interest in a war with Greece. NASA's New Moon rocket had another dangerous fuel leak on Saturday, forcing its second attempt to take off to be aborted. Last Monday, Artemis, the most powerful craft ever built by NASA, was also marred by escaping hydrogen. Years behind schedule and billions over budget, the €4 billion test flight is the first step in NASA's renewed lunar exploration ambitions. American actress and activist Jane Fonda wrote on Instagram that she's been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and have started chemo treatments. Fonda added that this is a very treatable cancer, and unlike many, she's privileged to have insurance and access to the best doctors. Non-Hodgkin lymphoma is a cancer in the white blood cells and affects the body's immune system. These giant boulders being placed at the bottom of the English Channel are the latest attempt by Greenpeace UK to try and prevent destructive industrial fishing. The environmental organisation dropped the giant rocks in an area of the Southwest Deeps Conservation Zone, some 190 kilometres off Land's End, the most westerly point of mainland England.
Placing these boulders immediately stops destructive bottom trawlers from being able to operate in the area by making it impossible for them to drag their heavy fishing gear along the seabed, destroying the habitat and disturbing the carbon.
The action comes after the latest round of UN talks to try and secure protection for marine life in international waters broke out without agreement.
If the governments has the willingness to protect some areas, they could do it. They have the power. So the small act that we are doing is a proof that it can be done.
Greenpeace says the Southwest Deeps is one of the most heavily fished in the so-called marine protected areas in the UK. Figures from the Global Fishing Watch Monitoring Agency shows that 110 vessels, more than half of them from France, fished for nearly 20,000 hours in the area in the last 18 months until July.
The occupied West Bank is maybe not the first place you'd think of when looking for an autumn beer festival. But thousands come here to Tebe each September to taste the brews concocted under the watchful eye of brewmaster Madis Khoury.
I grew up in the brewery since I was 9 years old, and I just watched my father and uncle and grandfather build a business, and I grew to love it so much that once I graduated from college, I decided to move back from Boston and work with the family and manage the business and learn the brewing.
Traditional dancing is part of the festivities. Madis reckons she could be the Middle East's only female brewmaster.
No one would expect beer in Palestine, right? Or a female brewer in Palestine. And yeah, I agree, women all over in the beer industry have it very difficult. But I think I have it extra difficult being in an Arab-dominated in a male-dominated country, the Arab country, and also under occupation.
KB is a small Christian village that's now established itself as a global beer brand.